Happening right now in Trump's New York criminal trial, former President Trump's top aide, Hope Hicks, is on the witness stand. Hicks served in the Trump administration as White House communications director and later as an advisor. Now, she is the 9th witness called by the prosecution. We are also awaiting a ruling on 4 more Trump gag order violations. Both sides argued on the matter yesterday, but Judge Merchan is yet to make a decision. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany. And also joining us today, co-anchor of America Reports, Sandra Smith, and Fox and Friends weekend co-host and author of the upcoming book, The War on Warriors, Pete Hegseth. First, let's go live to Eric Shawn, who is outside the New York State Supreme Court with more. Eric.
Yeah, Emily, she was at his side during the election campaign and in the White House. Now, former close aide Hope Hicks to former President Trump is looking at him directly from the witness stand. Ms. Hicks, as we speak at this moment, is testifying in this trial here at Manhattan Criminal Court. She, of course, the longtime loyal member of Trump's inner circle, his 2016 campaign press secretary and later counselor to the president. She is testifying about what she may know concerning payments to keep the stories of Trump's alleged affairs quiet. In his testimony, National Enquirer publisher David Pecker said that it was Ms. Hicks who was in and out of that meeting at Trump Tower in 2015, where Pecker, Trump, and Michael Cohen hatched the plan for Pecker to be campaign's eyes and ears to keep a lookout for any potential scandals that could tarnish Trump. And Pecker also testified that he did have a phone call with Hicks and former White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders at one point, after Karen McDougal went public with her claims that she had had an affair with the former president. That phone call happening in 2018. Hicks will likely be asked if those efforts were made to protect the president's reputation, as the defense claims, or as the prosecution charges, to hide those claims from Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels to protect the Trump election. As her former boss looked on, Hicks admitted this morning when she took the stand that, quote, "I'm really nervous." She stopped at one point during her testimony to say this will get some getting used to, and she appeared to be at unease. She is detailing her role with the campaign in the White House, saying she was in key meetings, and she just a few moments ago was asked about Michael Cohen, but there's no major development about that. She also testified that she used to speak with and see the former president every single day, but has not spoken with him since about a year and a half ago. She also is testifying here, not voluntarily, but under subpoena. Back to you in the studio.
Eric Shawn, thank you so much. All right, let's bring it back to the couch. Pete Hegseth, break down yet again on the 9th witness the next and latest development of this sham trial.
Well, even other networks are willing to openly say there's precious little evidence here. I mean, to begin with, the charges aren't predicated on anything serious, and the evidence that Alvin Bragg's trying to develop isn't there. I mean, take yesterday, for example. So you've got Stormy Daniels' lawyer is on the stand. He refuses to say that it was hush money. He refuses to say that it was a payoff. Instead, he says it was consideration. You know what that's code for in the legal world? Extortion. And that's what this guy does for a living as a lawyer, finds clients who have been involved with or alleged to be involved with high-profile clients, and they fight for money for consideration to protect their reputation, right? That's effectively what he's talking about. By the way, he's the same lawyer who helped draft a statement from Stormy Daniels that denied all of it. So he's also on the stand trying to keep his law license because the letter that he signed was from Stormy Daniels saying nothing happened. And so he's contorting himself, trying to bend and say, well, it wasn't romantic. Maybe it was it was all a mess. And then you've got also on Cohen, he acknowledged, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, that Cohen was suicidal or wanted to kill himself potentially because he didn't have a job in the Trump administration. Well, that gives plenty of motive for Michael Cohen to not be truthful. He's angry. And so he's angry about it, and why would he not mischaracterize it? They don't have good evidence here.
And Sandra, as Pete has laid out, there are so many questions just by us watching. Can you imagine the questions the jury has as this is playing out before them?
Yeah, and Hope Hicks, great to be here, by the way. Hope Hicks has, I think, a stronger reputation in the mind of many Americans. They recognize her. This is a familiar name to so many. She was the press secretary during the 2016 campaign. She was then communications director inside of the Trump White House. We saw her comings and goings. We know she was very close to the former president during those days in office. And it was reported heading into this that she has not spoken to the former president since 2022. She has since said that on the stand in just the last few moments. Obviously, the effort here is to try to reveal anything she knows about those discussions, conversations that took place. A big goal might be surrounding the Access Hollywood tape and the release of that, and any efforts to obviously buy the silence of Stormy Daniels. So this is going to be an interesting one to watch. I think this is people are going to stop and listen to see what comes from this. But it's going to be about the relationships and the discussions inside of that White House. And she's going to have a lot of information to share on that. So we'll see where they go with it.
And Kaylee, let's talk about silence for a second and how it pertains to President Trump. Now, the judge has come out and said, well, you can testify here. You can testify in court, but the reality is, as we navigate these gag orders, that the president can't campaign effectively. He maintains, and especially in the court of public opinion, when he can't even address or respond to the bevy of attacks coming his way, while other witnesses and other participants get to enjoy Netflix documentaries and TikTok and all the like.
Yeah, I'm really struck by the argument that Todd Blanche made on this gag order. It was fascinating to me. First, a pretty obvious point. He said the press is peppering him with questions. I mean, I literally heard a CNN reporter shouting at Trump, tell us what you think of David Pecker's testimony. So the media is shouting these questions, obviously related to the 24 campaign, despite this being separate in the mind of the judge. He's supposed to just be silent and walk off. He can't defend himself in the midst of a campaign. That makes no sense. And Todd Blanche also said Joe Biden has mentioned this case. He mentioned, quote, to quote the president, Donald has had a few tough days, stormy weather. So the current president can make this allusion to Stormy Daniels, but the guy he's running against then can't speak. That makes no sense. And then Todd Blanche laid out all of the times Michael Cohen has talked about Trump in a Politico article where he said, question the truth-telling of Donald Trump. To your point, TikTok. Todd Blanche says Michael Cohen's making money off TikTok. Todd Blanche says Michael Cohen's shopping a TV show. These are all the arguments of Donald Trump's defense, and they're powerful arguments. But the part that stuck out to me was when they reconvened yesterday. Donald Trump's attorney came to the judge and gave him a pile of articles from legal scholars. I imagine some of those were from Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, all the people he's been mentioning, and said, if Trump posts these on Truth Social, would they violate the gag order? What did the judge say back? This is an attempt to comply with the gag order. And the judge says, I think the best advice you can give your client is when in doubt, steer clear. And the attorney tried to follow up. No, don't argue with me. When in doubt, steer clear. So even an attempt to comply with the gag order is struck down by the judge.
Which is a little bit void for vagueness, which, as you know, is grounds for an overturning anything and legal argument of why something's unconstitutional. I find it ironic, too. Look, this is a stretch, Harris. But that being said, there are laws against profiting from your criminal behavior, as you know, right? You can't write a book detailing how you committed a crime. Obviously, the OJ thing was an exception. But the point remains that, but here we see Michael Cohen, who clearly is profiting, you can argue, off of his crimes. Why can't President Trump even talk about what he is being accused of?
Because it would blow this case out of the water. I mean, Michael Cohen, as Pete laid out, he had some motives for what he did then and what he's doing now. He was angry. He didn't get a job, as you said, Pete, inside the White House. I mean, anybody who would surreptitiously, and I realize it's a one-party state, but, you know, I've been asking all day, well, would the president have known he was being recorded? And do you think he would have had a problem with that?
I think it's a fair, even if it's legal, it's a fair question.
So who shares their client privileged information, their client attorney privileged information, if not to have some kind of motive? I want to get to this quickly, though, because we're getting play-by-play inside the courtroom. So on direct, this is the prosecution, Matthew Colangelo is asking Hope Hicks about what was going on in Trump's office during the Donald Trump-David Pecker meeting. And David Pecker, of course, is linked allegedly to the catch and kill scheme with Karen McDougal. The money flowed through and paid that Playboy model. And they bring in that salacious case into this trial to somehow show, oh, Trump had a whole string of women and he was paying them and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that's why he's part of this. Hope Hicks says she doesn't have a recollection, but it's possible she confirmed she saw Pecker at Trump Tower. She then recalls overhearing a conversation between Trump and Pecker discussing an article about Ben Carson and medical malpractice. She says Trump congratulated David on a great David Pecker, on a great investigative piece. Hope Hicks says this is the most vivid recollection, but also recalls praising coverage about Ted Cruz, father involved with Lee Harvey Oswald, that sort of thing, those types of stories. She said Trump said, quote unquote, nothing remarkable, great reporting to David Pecker. So they're trying to get to who had texture, connective tissue, any kind of color about the people who are being called to the stand, the other people who are part of this case now.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.